The docking clamps hissed like a coiled beast as the transport bay settled against the steel bones of Outpost Verelia. Sergeant Jason Rourke stood at the head of the ramp, helmet under one arm, sunglasses reflecting the alien sun's harsh violet hue. Behind him, 6 human soldiers, silent, armed, and sharp-eyed, waited for the signal to disembark. "Welcome to paradise," Jason muttered. Lieutenant Kresna, a Lyroxian liaison officer, stepped forward to greet them. She stood over 7 feet tall, reptilian scales catching the glare, her eyes a cool silver. "Sergeant Rourke," she said, voice like stone dragged over silk. "You and your team are late." Jason smirked. "You'll get used to that." She didn't flinch, but the twitch in her tail betrayed annoyance. "You were requested here for strategic cohesion, not insolence." "Trust me, ma'am," he said, stepping down the ramp. "This is me being diplomatic." Inside the outpost, the mood tightened. The corridors were sterile, precise, built by minds that valued order above comfort. Alien soldiers passed them with stiff backs and darting glances. No greetings. No nods. Just silence and attention you could chew. Private Alvarez leaned close. "They look at us like we brought a plague." "We did," Jason said dryly. "It's called improvisation." They reached the command chamber, a high-ceilinged hall humming with holographic maps and blinking consoles. Dozens of species filled the room, most of them quieting when the humans entered. General Otho, 3-eyed and crimson-skinned, rose from his seat. "Humans," he said, voice echoing. "Earth's finest." "At last." Jason offered a mock salute. "Reporting for chaos." Otho didn't laugh. "This is a joint peacekeeping effort. Not a battlefield. You will operate under alien command, observe protocol, and avoid escalation." "Define escalation," Jason said, unblinking. Before Otho could respond, a smooth, deep voice interrupted. "Escalation is what happens when humans are given too much leash." From the shadows stepped Commander Tazrek Val. Tall, lean, his blue armor shimmered like oil on water. His eyes, black voids, locked onto Jason. Jason didn't blink. "And you are?" "Tazrek Val. High strategist of Valderan. You've heard of us. Only that you think discipline's a substitute for courage." A beat of silence fell, thick as tar. Tazrek's lips curled faintly. "I look forward to reviewing your methods." "I don't need fans," Jason said. "Just space to work." Otho cleared his throat. "Enough. Briefing in 1 hour." Dismissed. The barracks assigned to the humans looked like someone had studied Earth architecture from a museum brochure and still got it wrong. The beds were too narrow, lights too bright, air too clean. "You smell that?" Corporal Dixon asked. "Nothing," Alvarez said. "Exactly. Where's the oil? The sweat? Feels like we're sleeping in a damn hospital." Jason ignored them, opening the team's gear crates. Inside were modified rifles, smart armor suits, and 2 sealed containers labeled for unofficial use. He cracked one open. 2 cigars and a flask of bourbon stared back. "Don't get too comfortable," he said. "We've got a peacekeeping patrol scheduled at 0600. Probably another word for bait." Morning came too fast. The alien transport rumbled low over the rocky terrain, carrying Jason's team and a dozen multispecies soldiers. The landscape of Verelia stretched out, rust-red cliffs, ash-gray soil, and purple trees that pulsed faintly, like they breathed. The squad moved in silence, weapons ready. Jason took point. Their destination, Sector 17, where sensors had flagged rebel movement. A routine check, they were told. Jason didn't buy it. The first sign was the birds. There were always birds, ugly, winged things with translucent beaks, but now, nothing. Just wind and the crunch of boots on brittle ground. "Eyes up," Jason warned. Moments later, the ridge exploded. Plasma bolts rained down from above. Alien troops dove for cover, screaming in their native tongues. One froze mid-sprint, shot clean through the chest. A Garnashi heavy trooper tried to raise his shield but was too slow. He died roaring. Jason didn't wait. Suppressing fire, now! He barked. His team moved like clockwork, spreading wide, flanking hard. Alvarez lobbed a smoke grenade uphill. Jason dashed through it, climbed the ridge under cover of chaos, and caught the enemy line from behind. 3 rebels, humanoid, masked. He dropped 2 with clean headshots. The third turned, surprised. Jason tackled him, disarmed him mid-fall, and pressed a knife to his throat. Who sent you? The rebel hissed in a language the translator didn't recognize. Jason slit his throat. Down below, the ambush crumbled. His squad held the line while alien soldiers regrouped behind them, still trembling. When the dust cleared, Jason stood at the top of the ridge, blood spattered on his armor, staring down at the shaken coalition. Lieutenant Kresna arrived, breathless, her squad limping behind her. What in the void just happened? She demanded. A trap, Jason said flatly. They knew we were coming. Someone fed them our patrol route. She blinked. Impossible. Those files are restricted. Jason walked past her, pausing only once. Then either your security's a joke, or someone up top wants us dead. He didn't wait for her answer. Back at base, the debriefing was quiet. Too quiet. Tazrek watched from the shadows, again saying nothing. Jason could feel the shift, every eye on him now filled not just with suspicion, but something colder. Something ancient. Fear. He lit a cigar as he left the command room, ignoring the posted, no smoking, sign. Private Alvarez caught up to him. We saved them. Why do they look at us like we're monsters? Jason exhaled a plume of smoke, eyes scanning the artificial stars above. Because, he said, voice low, we didn't flinch when it got bloody. And in this galaxy, that made them dangerous. The debrief room was colder than Jason remembered. Not in temperature but in tone. The air carried something sterile and off, a silence too deliberate. The kind that meant people were watching. Listening. General Otho's voice broke through the low hum of reports and surveillance screens. Initial scans show nothing unusual. A rogue rebel group. Uncoordinated. Jason leaned forward, elbows on the table. They weren't uncoordinated. They hit our route before we got there. They knew the terrain. They flanked with precision. Tazrek stood by the far window, hands clasped behind his back, gaze locked on the horizon. Or your presence incited panic. Humans often inspire overreaction. Jason tilted his head. That's supposed to be an insult or a compliment. It's an observation, Tazrek replied without turning. Fear is not a weapon. It's a flaw. No, Jason said calmly. Fear is a compass. It tells people where the real threat is. A long silence followed, broken only by the quiet clicks of alien tacticians logging reports. General Otho sighed, glancing at both men. You'll continue with joint patrols. No exceptions. Tensions are high. We can't afford diplomatic fractures. Jason rose. Then let's not send our people out like blindfolded bait again. He walked out without waiting for dismissal. Later that afternoon, Jason sat with Alvarez and Dixon in the mess hall. The room wasn't built for comfort. The chairs were stiff, the lighting a shade too aggressive. Even the food came in compressed cubes, no taste, just fuel. Got a weird feeling, Dixon said between bites. Like they're staring through us, not at us. Alvarez nodded. They barely talk to us. Like we're ghosts. Jason stirred his drink without touching it. Because we don't belong in their narrative. What narrative is that? Alvarez asked. That we're controlled. Predictable. Easy to define. We're not. That terrifies them. The table went quiet. Across the room, 2 Zornathi soldiers whispered to each other, occasionally glancing toward the humans. Jason caught their eyes. They looked away fast. Reassigning patrols tomorrow, Jason said. Smaller squads. Tighter radius. We start calling the shots. Think they'll let that slide? Dixon asked. They'll fall in line when it works. Next morning, patrol recon formed into trios, one human paired with two alien soldiers. Jason chose the Western Canyon route. Alvarez took the northern basin. Dixon was sent toward the dry ridge. Jason's team included a Krelly marksman, slender and insected, and a silent dwarf-like Grosh named Varn. Neither spoke unless prompted. Jason didn't care. He preferred quiet partners who followed orders. The terrain was jagged. Red spires jutted from the ground like broken bones. The sky hung low, cast in a dull orange mist. Too still. Movement? Jason asked, scanning the data feed from his HUD. Negative, the Krelly said, voice filtered through a translator that buzzed with every syllable. But atmospheric interference is rising. Sensor range diminishing. Figures. Jason slowed his pace, crouching by a ridge that overlooked the canyon basin. Something shimmered faintly across the stone, a faint reflection, too clean for natural rock. Trip laser, Jason muttered. He tossed a pebble. Nothing. Then he flicked his knife. The moment the blade crossed the beam, the ridge ahead erupted. Controlled detonations, plasma charges, not local tech. The blast missed them narrowly. Jason rolled to cover, rifle out. Contact! Direction unknown! The Krelly fired a suppressive arc into the canyon. Varn grunted, flanking left. Return fire came instantly, tight bursts focused. Professional. Not rebel grade. Jason spotted a silhouette shifting between rocks, no insignia, no uniform, just matte armor and fluid motion. They're not rebels, he growled. These are trained. Someone gave them real training. Jason moved on instinct, circling behind a boulder, using dust and light to mask his angle. He spotted a sniper nest halfway up the ridge, already sighting Varn. Without pause, he fired. One shot. Skull shattered. Body collapsed. The Krelly blinked, stunned. How did you see him? I didn't, Jason said. I felt the silence. They cleared the remaining hostiles quickly. 4 dead. No survivors. No emblems. Every comm device was wiped. Equipment was clean, except for one, an encoded data chip missed in a neck joint. Jason pocketed it without a word. That evening, in his quarters, Jason decrypted the chip using a black market tool from Earth's Mars outpost. It wasn't standard protocol, but he stopped caring about rules the day his first squad died. The chip contained voice logs, partially corrupted. What remained was chilling. Advance confirmed. Target patrol. Sector route embedded. Earth unit leads. The rest was static. Jason stared at the screen. Someone was feeding their coordinates to the enemy. Someone inside the command structure. He tapped his comm. Alvarez, Dixon, check your helmet logs. Look for any unexplained data access. Something's leaking info. Dixon answered first. I thought my comm was lagging last night. Figured it was just bad uplink. It wasn't, Jason said. Alvarez cursed. You think it's someone in base? Jason's voice was low. I think it's someone high enough to cover it up. At the nightly strategy review, Jason entered late, tossing the data chip on the table in front of General Otho. Found that on a rebel. Audio says someone leaked our route. Otho frowned, sliding the chip into the console. When the logs played, murmurs swept the room. Tazrek stepped forward. Anyone can fake a voice recording. This proves nothing. Jason met his stare. So discredit the message. Not the fact our patrol was bait. This is dangerous speculation. No, Jason snapped. Dangerous is sending troops out blind while someone's selling us to ghosts. Otho silenced the room with a raised hand. Enough. We'll open a formal inquiry. Jason laughed once. That's what you say when you want it buried. He left again, the room colder than ever. Later, Tazrek confronted him outside the barracks. You're playing a reckless game, human. No game, Jason replied. I'm just not built for silence. Tazrek studied him. You wield fear like a scalpel. But eventually you'll cut too deep. Jason lit a cigar. Fear only works if you're not used to bleeding. He walked into the dark, smoke trailing behind him like a warning. And for the first time, Tazrek didn't have a reply. Jason didn't wait for approval. The data chip changed everything. There was no room for bureaucracy or waiting for clean channels. People were dying. That meant it was time to act. At 0400, he gathered his squad in the armory, just the humans. No aliens. No officers. The door locked behind them. Unauthorized op? Alvarez asked, already pulling his gear. Call it what you want, Jason said. We're heading into Grid Echo 7. I traced the last signal on that chip. It's transmitting again. Did you run it through command? Dixon asked. Jason gave a tight shake of his head. I don't trust command. That was all they needed. The trek was silent. No support, no comm uplinks. They disabled trackers on their suits. What they were doing wasn't sanctioned. If it went south, no one would come looking. Echo 7 was a graveyard of half-finished infrastructure, abandoned terra towers, skeletons of outposts long deserted after the initial colonization. Perfect cover for something no one wanted seeing. They moved in pairs, sweeping alleyways between corroded steel and dust-choked roads. Jason's eyes never stopped scanning. Then he saw it. A shimmer. He dropped to one knee, holding up a fist. Dixon mirrored him instantly. The others flanked wide, suppressors locked. The shimmer moved again, camouflage tech, imperfect. Old Valdoran design, illegal under Federation code. Jason closed the gap like a ghost. One blink and he was behind the figure. His blade pressed into a soft neck joint as the shimmer dropped, revealing a masked operative, in matte black armor. No insignia again, Jason murmured. Let me guess, you're a contractor? The operative struggled. Jason tightened his grip. You're feeding someone info, he said. Tell me who, or you stop breathing now. A second figure raised a rifle from behind a crate. Alvarez dropped him with one silent shot. The captive froze. Jason pressed harder. Now. A raspy voice came through the mask. Tazrek. He's buying silence. We're just the muscle. Jason slit his throat anyway. They swept the site clean, no survivors. One encrypted drive. Sealed. Jason shoved it into his pouch and torched the bodies. No evidence. No trail. They were back at base by sunrise, entering through a maintenance tunnel they'd scouted on day 2. Unofficial paths for unofficial moves. Back in his quarters, Jason decrypted the drive. Layers of military-grade encryption peeled away, revealing data logs and audio files, labeled with timestamps and tags, asset transfers, route changes, suppression orders. But one file stopped him cold. It was a private channel. Subject: Human Overreach. Sender: Commander Tazrek Vol. To Valdoran High Chamber. Their instinct for aggression cannot be contained. I've directed operations to expose their volatility. Once proven unstable, Earth will be removed from the Council's military roster. It was a setup from the start. Tazrek wanted the humans to crack under pressure, to overextend, lash out, become what the galaxy feared. It was a trap dressed as diplomacy. Jason stared at the screen, jaw tight. This wasn't politics. This was treason. And they were the scapegoats. In the command hall, the mood was brittle. Jason stormed in unannounced, data pad in hand. The council was mid-briefing. Otho glanced up, irritated. Tazrek turned slowly. We're in session, Sergeant, Otho said. Jason walked straight to the center. And I'm ending it. He tossed the pad onto the main projector table. The files bloomed in midair: voice logs, troop transfer maps, private messages between Tazrek and Valdoran strategists. Silence swept the room like a bomb. Tazrek didn't flinch. Forgery. Jason stepped closer. Run authentication. Right now. A tech officer at the edge of the room nervously tapped keys. Confirmed. Data integrity holds. This is real. Otho's jaw clenched. Commander Tazrek, you've violated multiple galactic codes, manipulated battlefield conditions, orchestrated false intelligence, jeopardized an entire operation. Tazrek's calm mask cracked slightly. I acted in defense of long-term stability. Jason leaned in. You lit the fire and waited for us to dance in it. Except we walked through it carrying receipts. Tazrek hissed something in his native tongue, unreadable. Otho turned to his guards. Commander Val, you are relieved of duty. Await trial. But Tazrek had no intention of waiting. A flash. A blade. One of the guards fell, throat sliced. The other stumbled back. Tazrek lunged for the exit. Jason was already moving. He tackled him into the wall, elbow jammed into his throat. Tazrek fought like a cornered animal, fast and vicious. But Jason was heavier, angrier. You wanted to see what makes us monsters? He growled. A fist drove into Tazrek's gut, then his jaw. He hit the floor with a metallic thud. Jason stood over him. Now you know. The fallout was immediate. The council suspended Valderan voting privileges. Investigations opened across military operations. Rumors exploded across the Galactic net, some calling Jason a rogue, others calling him a hero. Back at the barracks, Dixon handed him a fresh flask. So, we staying or getting shipped? Jason took a slow swig. Neither. Alvarez raised an eyebrow. Then what? Jason lit a cigar. We're being watched now. Feared. That means they'll never trust us, but they'll never cross us either. He looked out at the alien skyline. We're not just part of the system anymore, he said. We're the pressure valve. When things go bad, they'll call us. And when things go worse? Dixon asked. Jason smiled without warmth. They'll wish they hadn't. Outside, the winds howled across Verelia. And deep in the galaxy, the message spread. Don't provoke the humans. Especially the Americans. Dust curled in ghostly spirals as Jason crouched behind the shattered wing of a downed transport. The ground trembled with distant detonations. From his vantage point, the valley below burned, columns of smoke rising like black claws against the sky. They had been ambushed again. Not by stragglers. Not rebels. A full squad of Valderan loyalists, rogue military, armed to the teeth, backed by stolen tech. They weren't hiding anymore. Jason wiped sweat from his brow, streaking it with grime. His HUD blinked red, signal jammed. Reinforcements, unavailable. They were cut off. Status? He called over local comms. Alvarez's voice buzzed back. Pinned behind the slagged crawler. Dixon's hit, Minor. We count 11 tangos. 2 with cloaks, 3 heavies, all aggressive. Jason leaned over the wing, sighting with his scope. A blur moved across the far ridge, cloaked, barely visible. He marked it. They're testing us, Jason muttered. Seeing how we hold without command support. Varn, the Grosh from earlier, crouched beside him, double-barrel scatter rifle primed. They do not attack like rebels, he said in his gravelly tone. Too efficient. Jason nodded. Because they're not rebels. They're ghosts. Leftovers from Tazrek's plan, waiting to finish the job. He tapped his mic. Time to go loud. Alvarez chuckled. Been waiting all morning. Jason launched first, one explosive round into the far ridge, scattering shrapnel and smoke. The valley lit up with gunfire. Varn moved fast for his size, laying down suppressive bursts as Jason and Dixon flanked through the wreckage. A Valderan heavy trooper emerged from cover, cannon braced on shoulder. He aimed too slowly. Jason ducked behind a rusted support beam and slid under the cannon's arc, tossing a stun charge against the trooper's chest. The detonation pulsed hard. The alien dropped without a sound. 5 down, Dixon called. But they're regrouping. Let them, Jason said. He moved like water, unpredictable, direct. He used sound to distract, terrain to trap, fire to herd them into exposed lanes. It was chaos by design. That's what they never understood. Humans weren't built for orderly warfare. They turned battlegrounds into puzzles. And Jason? He was the knife you didn't know was behind you until it was too late. He set a trip mine on a metal girder and whistled, loud and sharp. A cloaked enemy shifted toward the sound. The blast took off his legs. Jason didn't blink. A hiss behind him. He spun and met the lunging blade of another operative with the butt of his rifle. Metal cracked against bone. He pulled the trigger mid-swing, tearing a hole through the attacker's chest. Alvarez's voice crackled. 3 left. But they've regrouped. Southeast Plateau. Looks like they're calling an evac. Jason narrowed his eyes. They don't get out. They converged on the plateau. Jason, Alvarez, Dixon, Varn, and 2 remaining coalition troopers who'd survived by sheer luck. The humans led. The aliens followed, eyes wide, silent. The enemies were trying to signal a dropship. A small beacon flickered on a rise, its pulse climbing. Jason took a breath. Dixon, cover right. Alvarez, arc wide. We go full pincer. No prisoners. Understood, Alvarez said. Jason moved like a wraith through the thinning smoke. The first target didn't even hear him coming. A blade between the shoulder and collar ended him instantly. The second turned too late. Dixon dropped him mid-step with a clean shot to the throat. The last one ran. Jason chased. No hesitation. No warning. Just boots pounding rock and lungs pulling fire from the air. He tackled the operative near the beacon, drove his knee into the alien's ribs, and pinned him. Who sent the order? Jason demanded. The operative bared jagged teeth. You don't scare me. Jason leaned in. That's a lie. He shoved a plasma knife to the operative's temple. Tell the truth, and I walk away. A pause. Then, Valderan cell. Autonomous. You were meant to die out here quietly. Jason didn't say a word. He drove the blade in and stood as the body went limp. Hours later, the team sat among the ruins. They were bruised, bloodied, and dust-covered but alive. One of the alien troopers, a Yaliki with silvery tendrils for hair, approached Jason. You did not retreat, he said quietly. We don't know how, Jason replied. The alien looked down at the bodies, then back at him. You hunt like predators, not soldiers. Jason didn't argue. Dixon slumped beside him, sipping from a cracked canteen. So what now? We transmit everything, Jason said. Full report. Tactical logs. Helmet cam footage. Let the galaxy see what happens when you corner us. Alvarez smirked. You sure that won't scare our allies more than our enemies? Jason looked out at the darkening horizon. Let them be scared. Better fear than betrayal. Varn sat beside him, silent, eyes heavy. Why do you fight so hard? He asked. Even when abandoned. Jason didn't hesitate. Because nobody comes to save us. So we became the ones who never stop. The wind howled through the ruins. Somewhere above, the stars blinked into the night. And every soldier present that day would remember not just how the humans fought, but how they hunted. How they adapted. How they refused to die quiet. They finally understood the truth. Humans weren't feared for their strength. They were feared because they turned survival into an art form. Jason adjusted the collar of his dark, formal-ish uniform. It didn't fit right, too stiff, too clean. After weeks in dust, blood, and field gear, it felt like pretending. Across from him, the lights warmed, illuminating the modest interview chamber. No war tables, no combat maps, just a clean white space, 2 chairs, and a single holocron hovering silently overhead. The interviewer, a Selenari named Arvindal, entered with soft footsteps. Humanoid, but pale-skinned, his silver eyes glimmered under the studio lights. He wore no armor, no insignia, just a dark blue robe, embroidered with swirling patterns. Jason stayed seated. Sergeant Jason Rourke, Arvind said with a mild bow. Thank you for agreeing to speak today. Didn't agree, Jason muttered. I was ordered. Then I thank you for obeying. Jason didn't reply. Arvind activated his recorder with a flick of his fingers. A low chime echoed. This conversation will be broadcast across the Galactic news stream, he said. Our goal is transparency, to understand what happened at Virelia. More specifically, he paused. Why humans, particularly Americans, are spoken of with such fear. Jason leaned back. You want a soundbite. I want the truth. Jason gave a tight shrug. The truth doesn't fit in soundbites. Arvin adjusted his chair. Let's begin at the core. From your perspective, why were you targeted by rogue Federation forces? Because we don't follow the script, Jason said simply. Tazrek wanted clean wars. Controlled reactions. Predictable decisions. That's not us. Not me. Because you're American? Jason gave a slight smile. Because I'm human. But yeah, Americans push it further. It's not just tactics, it's mindset. When the system fails, we don't wait. We fix it, or we break what's in the way. Arvin studied him for a beat. To many across the galaxy, that's terrifying. Jason nodded. Good. Fear keeps the vultures back. Do you want to be feared? No, Jason said flatly. But I want us understood. You don't send us to clean up your messes, then act surprised when we don't mop like everyone else. The hollow behind Arvin flared to life, projecting battlefield footage. It showed Jason mid-charge, face half-bloodied, yelling orders through smoke while dragging an injured soldier across firelit terrain. This moment, Arvin said. You were already outnumbered. Why didn't you retreat? Jason didn't look at the screen. Because someone always has to be last out. And I'm not letting my people become body counts in someone's political game. There was a beat of silence. Arvin shifted forward. Then tell me, Sergeant, what drives that choice? What's behind the American approach to conflict? The relentlessness. The defiance. Jason exhaled slowly. It's not about rage. Or glory. It's the refusal to be erased, he said. We were the last species admitted into the Federation. Not because we weren't ready, but because you were afraid of us. You looked at our history and saw chaos. Arvin hesitated. Was it not chaos? Jason finally looked up, eyes hard. It was struggle. Pain. Growth. And every scar taught us one thing: when the odds see you lose, fight harder. When your leaders fail, you lead. When death knocks, you kick the damn door off the hinges. Arvin was quiet, processing. So, you're saying it's cultural? Jason nodded. Where others wait for permission, we move. Where others retreat, we anchor. It's not just training. It's blood deep. We were born from revolution. We don't stop just because someone tells us the odds are bad. The holoscreen behind them shifted again, this time to the aftermath of the final skirmish. The bodies. The cratered field. Jason, standing alone in front of the wreckage, silent. That day, Arvin said, you lost 2 of your own. Still, you refused evac. Why? Jason's voice was quieter now. They died standing. I stayed standing too. Not for pride. For memory. So someone would know what we did there. What it cost. He glanced at Arvin. Fear isn't what we chase. But if it keeps our enemies from trying that again, I'll take it. Arvin sat back, silent for a long breath. Many viewers will see this and call it arrogance. A justification for brutality. Jason didn't blink. Then they weren't watching closely enough. Another pause. Arvin tapped his fingers against his chair's edge. What would you say to the other races, the ones watching this with confusion, even dread? Jason leaned forward. Don't mistake our aggression for aimlessness. We don't like war. We hate it. But we'll finish every one you start. Don't mistake our silence for submission. And don't assume fear is all we offer. He paused, then added. You've seen the worst of us. What scares you more is, we haven't shown you the best yet. The interview concluded. Jason stood, gave a nod, and left the chamber. Outside, the corridor buzzed softly. News feeds had already lit up. Excerpts were spinning. Reactions split. Some hailed him as a symbol. Others warned of human escalation. He didn't care. In the hangar, Alvarez leaned against the crate, helmet under his arm. So, media darling now? Jason gave a dry smile. I didn't punch anyone. That's growth. Dixon chuckled nearby. They said you're trending on 6 planets. I'm sure the comments are polite. Alvarez pushed off the crate. We got new orders. High Command wants a human-led response team. All species. We pick the missions. Jason raised an eyebrow. Us? You broke the mold. Now they want us to redesign it. Jason thought for a long second. Then he nodded. Fine. But this time, we write the rules. As they walked toward their new assignment, alien troops stepped aside. Not from hate. But respect. Maybe even something else. Understanding. And for the first time since Virelia, Jason felt it. Not fear. But a future.